Good morning and welcome to your Rangers Review morning briefing for Monday the 26th of July, the morning after the night before when Rangers beat Real Madrid. What was a really enjoyable evening. So we'll go straight in. It feels strange saying it, but anyway, we'll go straight into that, chaps. Derek, I'll start with you. It was a strangely comfortable game, wasn't it? But it was a friendly, and Real Madrid didn't have all their best players out, but there's a lot to take from it, wasn't there?
Yeah, there certainly was. I mean, of course, they took the lead, and it was a great goal from their point of view. But then Rangers really just upped the ante, didn't they? They didn't let it affect them, and some of the play at times was an absolute joy to watch. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I know, like you say, it's a friendly, and Real Madrid never had the sort of big hitters out, but that side is, you'd still take every player in that Real Madrid side in the squad. You know what I mean? That it's Real Madrid. They're a class act, and Rangers really they outplayed them for the majority of the game. They couldn't live with them at times. The amount of shots they had on goal was incredible stuff. And I know it's a friendly, and the results don't matter and what have you, but it'll do the confidence of the boys at the world of good. Not that it was needing a shot in the arm anyway, but the match against Brighton, I thought they were impressive, maybe just lacking that killer instinct in front of goal. But yesterday, absolutely terrific, and it bodes well for the season ahead. Although Livingston will be a completely different kettle of fish when they go up against them, because they are not going to come out like Real Madrid. But yeah, it bodes well for the season ahead.
Jonny, there was a point in the first half with 17 shots, the Real Madrid's won that, and I know you can read too much into that, but there was a point in the first half in the stadium, I think about 30 minutes in, where the keeper had made another save, and everyone kind of looked around and thought, this is a bit ridiculous, isn't it? Because Rangers conceivably could have been gone in, with 3 goals to the good at the break, and it would have been fully deserved.
Yeah, it was a remarkable first half performance. There's no other way to frame it. Rangers were completely on top, and if you'd asked an Ian who was coming down to watch the match which of the two sides was Real Madrid, given the amount of money they'd spent, it would have definitely been Steven Gerrard's men that they would have suggested was the team that had spent all the cash. It was just so comfortable, and they looked so relaxed on the ball. The midfield dynamic looked much improved for me over these 2 games that it has in the previous season. John Lundstrom really fitted in well, and it was obvious what he's going to bring, that kind of drive and power from midfield, not only in terms of an attacking sense, but getting back, slotting into position and pushing people off the ball. He's got real power and drive, and that's going to make a big impact to Rangers. And then, of course, Fashion Sakala was also sensational. So I think one thing that we learned, that Derek's piece where he valued the 2 players at 15 million pounds was completely, he completely undervalued them there. And we need to go back and look at that, because they were absolutely terrific, weren't they?
It was a conservative estimate.
Yeah. We've got Gordy Watson saying good morning and saying Fashion Sakala is gonna smash the league. I mean, what impressed me about him last night was the way he was able to be involved in the game, and we heard a lot prior to his arrival about how he might impact the team in Europe on the shoulder, and we've seen bursts of pace last night. There was one body check from Nacho which was pretty cynical for a friendly, but I thought the way that he helped switch play. Rangers played vertically a lot through the lines, and his close control. Steven Gerrard said after there's still parts to polish of that rough diamond, but Derek, it's early signs pretty promising, and the crowd loved him, especially when he got that goal.
Oh yeah, absolutely. The heard on commentary, they say he's 100 miles an hour, and he is that. I know he came on against Brighton. I watched him, and he was full of energy, but it was you could maybe tell that he never had as many training sessions with the squad as the other players. You could tell that he was maybe positionally just a bit off and couldn't really get in behind the Brighton defence. But yesterday, terrific. Sometimes his decision making slightly off, but again, we need to remind ourselves that he's just joined the squad. What was it, a week ago? He teamed up with them also. Yeah. It's going to take him a few weeks just to settle in, I think. But his goal was terrific. great sharpness, great alertness to go in and fire it towards the near post as well. And yeah, the reaction from the crowd. They loved the guy before he signed. I've never seen a player Rangers that have been linked with and have signed and not played yet, and the love for him, it's quite incredible, really. And you can't not help but love him with we smile and all that. And I think Rangers have got a new hero on the cards. But yeah, very encouraging signs. And first goal against Real Madrid doesn't get much better.
One thing, Josh, I would add on that is a lot of people were looking at Sakala, obviously, and we had a detailed piece on what he can bring by Adam Thornton to the team. And I think there's a few concerns about how he's going to adapt to the SPFL, given how deep teams play, given his pace and getting in behind is a key facet of his game. But I think what we saw against Real Madrid is he's also got extremely quick feet and he's got a great touch. There was one moment where he plucked a long ball out there with one touch. I think it was in the second half. You just thought, wow, that is seriously good control. And then there was a couple of times when he was one-on-one with a defender where he showed great feet in the box. I think it was in the first half, actually. He sort of twisted one way, twisted the other. And he took 3 or 4 touches in a very, very short space of time. You thought, okay, he's got quite soft feet. He's going to be a player that's going to be multi-dimensional. It's not just going to be about his pace.
Yeah, totally. Ronnie Porter as well, big fan of Fashion Sakala, saying he thinks he might be the top scorer in the division. And I mean, we'll know more after a few games, the Livingston game as well. But I think for me, he'll probably start against Livingston now. Maybe Roof will play central and right wide. I don't know, but we'll see. Certainly, lots to be excited about. Callum Milligan asking if Rangers. Does Kamara have a future at Rangers after the signing of John Lundstrom? I mean, I'll put it to you first, Derek. In my mind, that midfield, when Kamara balanced the midfield last night when he came on, he won the ball back for the second goal. And I think in European terms, if Kamara does stay and we're able to play Lundstrom on the right with the drive up the pitch, Davies in the middle dictating and Kamara doing absolutely everything that he can do, that's a really top-class midfield to play in Europe.
Yeah, absolutely is. I think he absolutely has a future, but money will dictate. If a big offer comes in from down south, then that'll obviously dictate whether Glenn Kamara will be a Rangers player next season or not. I think everyone's resigned to the fact. We've spoke about it in enough shows that there's going to be at least one, maybe two players heading out the door. It's just a model that Rangers have, that they bring in players to replace those that. We've all spoke about it. There's been an article on it on the Rangers Review site. He was bought for 50 grand famously, and Rangers are going to make a hell of a lot of money on him. But it remains to be seen if he goes at this window. I know, like Arsenal, his former club, and a number of Premier League sides credited with interest in him. But if he stays, absolutely fantastic. That midfield that you just mentioned there, Joshua, going into the Champions League qualifiers and hopefully Champions League football as well. You think that's a midfield that could compete against teams, and not to mention Stephen Kelly as well, who I thought on Saturday was absolutely sensational. What a bright talent that boy is, and I think he might have a part to play next season as well.
Yeah, definitely. And Jonny, just looking across the whole weekend in terms of standout performers, who caught your eye? Because I thought yesterday Ryan Kent was just enjoyed the whole game. He just loved it and skipped past players with joy. Lundstrom was great. I thought Hadji had a couple of interesting moments yesterday, but also showed a couple of real touches of quality and did quite well in a midfield three. But who stood out for you across the whole weekend?
Well, I'm going to take a slightly different. Obviously, the obvious players that you've mentioned stood out, but what stood out for me, and I think what's interesting about Rangers this year, and why I think 56 is an absolute inevitability at the moment, is Rangers have a squad of players who are on a trajectory. And just look at the trajectory and the quality of some of these fringe players in pre-season. Calvin Bassey, of course, he's a good player that's going to get better, but we've seen an acceleration in his development already, I think, in this pre-season. He looks a different player to what he did last year. Nathan Patterson, of course, he's a generational talent at right back. he's going to get better as seasons go on. And already in these last few games, I think has been outstanding again. Although he hasn't played a huge amount of minutes, but when he's been on, he's looked absolutely at it. And those are just two, but there's a number of players I think who've got a long way still to go, a lot more to give, who are already at the club, who are part of this very intelligent long-term planning that's been going on. But a guy that's impressed me in pre-season is Jack Simpson. And I know you gave him a 5 in your man-by-mans, Josh. I thought it was a wee bit unfair. I thought he was pretty good in the game against Real Madrid. I think he uses the ball well. And what he did against Real Madrid was he was very tight to the attacking threats. He pushed right up and was aggressive, which I haven't seen so much from his game so far. But I think he's had a decent pre-season as well. And I like the fact that there seems to be a rotation between him and Helander. It seems like Gerrard's decided the left-sided centre-back is going to be a left-sided centre-back this season. Again, that's something you've talked about on the website, Joshua, which I think is going to be important in terms of Rangers circulating the ball faster. So I think there's been a lot of real positive things. But for me, it's the development that we're seeing in some of those younger players that suggests this Rangers team, without making wholesale changes, is going to be even stronger this year than it was last year.
Yeah, and I think you just think back to last season as well, when Scott Arfield kind of came into the squad and made such an impact. I think when he came on against Dundee United and scored and stayed in the team for a few months. And I think there's a number of players that could do that. You're right, and that's the exciting thing. Nathan Patterson, when he came on last night, with those infield driving runs, was just excellent. We've seen a little bit of the Tavernier Patterson experiment as well. We'll touch on that. 10 minutes, Rangers went 4-1-4-1 instead of 3 at the back. In my mind, you've seen Beale and Gerrard really screaming at them to get up the pitch, but because they only had one central attacker, it kind of allowed Real Madrid a little bit of momentum, allowed them to start their attacks 10 yards higher up the field. Rangers wide attackers had to stay wide. It wasn't for all the hype and all the excitement and all the mileage we've got out of talking about it, Derek. It wasn't quite the culmination we'd maybe hoped for.
No, but there was a phase in play where I think Patterson and Tavernier combined, and it was lovely to watch. I think, and then Patterson set up Kamara, who played it forward, and it just got excited me because that was a glimpse possibly into the future. I know Tavernier in his post-match interview says he's still joked that he wants to play in the number 9 position. I don't
think he's joking anymore.
No, me neither. He keeps saying that, but in a weird way, I'd like to see it. But I think if we were going to, I think they probably see it in bounce games at Auchenhowie and what have you, and they see it behind closed doors. But I doubt we're going to see it in an actual game. But I think that's something that we're going to look forward to seeing this season, is those two playing in the same team. I'm not too sure how they're going to do it or when they're going to do it, but it's something that I'm looking forward to seeing. And on that left-hand side, Jonny mentioned Calvin Bassey. Thoroughly impressed with him in pre-season. I think he done himself justice. He's came on leaps and bounds from the player that joined the club, and he's really pushing Borna Barisic. I mean, he's still the number 1 Borna, but he's another one, like we mentioned. Glenn Kamara could possibly be one of the players moving on for big money, but certainly Calvin Bassey looks like an able deputy, that's for sure.
Yeah, Jonny, what was your thoughts on that 10 minutes you've seen of Tavernier and Patterson?
It didn't look like it really worked, to be frank. Yeah. I think you nailed it, Joshua, in your piece that went out today, talking about the game in a bit more detail than you would yesterday. I think that's going to require a bit of work down there. There was a couple of green shoots in terms of nice little bits of interplay between the two of them. But in terms of the actual shape, Rangers, to me, just looked a little confused suddenly, which is not confused, that's probably the wrong word, but just less fluid. That would be a better description of it. And that's unusual because Rangers always look so fluid and everyone always knows where to go. And suddenly with that change, it just didn't quite look so slick. But this is what pre-season's all about. At the end of the day, it's trying to get things ready for the curtains opening, and you'll see, I think, that they get more comfortable with that if that's the way they're going to decide to do it. I still think trying to do a kind of a version of how England played with Tavernier or Patterson as a right centre back might be the way to do this, with whichever one of them pushed forward into sort of wing back role. That to me is perhaps a better way of approaching it, but I can also see why 4-1-4-1 would suit, because it's not that big an adaptation from what they've already done. And we've seen Gerrard use that before in previous games. So the only difference being obviously that Tavernier is not playing right midfield.
Yeah. I think the only interesting thing is that the three at the back would allow them to play the three forwards, and normally with whatever we've seen with Gerrard, there's been three forwards, and even going back to the first systems that were introduced when it was wide forwards, they weren't wide midfielders, they were wide forwards, and they really got dragged back last night. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens with that. Maybe they'll put a pin in it and work on it over the next couple of months. A couple more comments. Ronnie Porter giving his tuppence think, saying that Kamara will stay to offer a bit of variation in the SPFL and Europe. And Douglas Connery with an interesting comment here. Do you think Jordan Jones deserves another chance? I mean, I said in my man by man last night, I don't think he's really helped his chances this pre-season. I wrote earlier this month about the sliding doors moment that seems to have snooked his Rangers career up to this point. I mean, Jonny, what do you think? Did he do anything to convince you that he should be a squad member of the team this season?
Listen, now, first of all, I would say I think Jordan Jones is a decent player. I'm not sure that he's quite good enough to make the impact at Rangers. You look at his skill set compared to Scott Wright, and I think he's a little bit one-dimensional. You know, Scott Wright not only has the pace, but he's got great ball control. He's got a good shot. You probably say that he can finish pretty well. Whereas Jordan Jones, I mean, he's lightning quick, but what else can you really say about Jordan Jones? I mean, I think he's a little one-dimensional for this Rangers team, and especially in that sort of left 10 role. If you're looking for an out-and-out winger to hug the touchline, then Jordan Jones has got positives and strengths. But I suspect he'll be back down to the Championship or League One at some point this season. I don't think he'll play a big part.
It wouldn't fit into the Rangers style of play anyway. I mean, he likes to play on the break. He tried hard against Brighton. He worked hard, but there's a few. His decision making was slightly off at times. Few wayward shots and crosses. And yeah, like Jonny, I think he's a decent player, but Rangers are at a level above now. I think Rangers need to be looking at. Well, they have got players that are ahead of him in the queue, and I can see him. I can't see how he forces himself into that starting 11.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, gents, we'll finish up with the League Cup draw, which happens, I think, during the game last night, because I missed it. Home to Dunfermline, second round of the Premier Sports Cup, I think it's now called. Tied to be played August 14th, 15th. Thoughts on that draw?
Home draw, is it? Yeah. Yeah, no, it's a home draw. I think you can't ask for anything other than that against a lower league opposition. I think they played on the 14th or the 15th of August. I can see Rangers progressing in that. And of course, the Cups is the one area that needs improvement. There's no doubt about it. So they'll be hoping to start well. Yeah, you can't ask for more than that. I think you would fancy Rangers going anywhere if they were away from home, but at home against lower league opposition, yeah. I mean, they shouldn't take it lightly. We all know what happens when that happens, but I don't think they will. I think they'll progress easily.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, well, we have this morning a real deep dive from Adam Thornton into Rangers midfield evolution and options, which is a fantastic read. If you want to have a look at that, I've also given my a few thoughts from last night's game, including Gerrard's comments on Rangers' defensive shape, Sakala and Lundstrom, Kent's performance. So plenty as ever on the Rangers review to keep you occupied and up to date with all things to do with your club. We will be back tomorrow morning at the same time, doing the same thing. Until then, you can keep up to date with us on all our socials. Thanks.